Josh Prediction, and I'm here with Josh of As I Lay Dying.
What's up?
So your band has done a lot of package tours like this in the past, so how does the Cool Tour measure up to the other tours?
I think what's cool about this tour is that, we've done stuff like Warped Tour, which is like a lot bigger, and it's outdoor and it's more of like a festival, but this is kind of just like, a really long show, and it's, it's cool that it's all aggressive music, but it's different styles of aggressive music, on one tour, so I think it's cool that they, there's, stuff super heavy like Acacia Strain type stuff, and there's like Cancer Bats that's more like punk related, then there's, just like all styles, so I think it's definitely awesome, and the fact there's only like 8 bands on it instead of like 50, you make better friends with the bands that are on it, so.
Yeah. And then upon the release of your last album, An Ocean Between Us, you guys said you were going to make conscious decisions to distance yourself from the monotony of metalcore as a genre. So what exactly did you feel you guys were doing back then to do that? And what are you guys doing differently now with the release of The Powerless Rise to keep this going?
Well, it was one of those things like, when metalcore first kind of emerged, it was bands like, Kill Switch and bands like As I Lay Dying and bands like, All That Remains that were kind of taking what, the intensity of hardcore music and then kind of, adding in that like metal, like Swedish metal, just like, influence into it. And what happened is, from bands like that started, influencing bands who influenced bands, and it just became more and more watered down as the years went by. So I think it wasn't as much of a conscious decision, it was just more of a decision to, when we were, when we were writing it, try to do something that would be a little more original than, like, not take the easy way out, we're writing, like, think about it a little more and not just be like, this is what we would have done 3 years ago. It's like, well, how can we improve on what we've done before? And that's what we did on the last record. And I think on this record, we just, basically the things that we did on Ocean Between Us to, unconsciously or consciously distance ourselves from that sound, we kind of took those things and even branched out even further. Like the fast stuff became a little faster, the more ambient stuff became a little more ambient, and it's not necessarily like we get together and we're like, how can we not sound like metalcore? It's just what happens because our band has matured, I guess. So.
And then, how did you and Tim decide where and when the clean singing parts that you do fit into the songs? And do you write the lyrics and the melodies for these parts?
Well, usually the singing part, like it's like, I think the album has 5 songs with singing on it, 5 or 6, and usually the singing, minus the last song on the record, which is kind of called The Blinding of False Light, that's kind of more of like a vibier song that I actually sing on the verses, but for the other songs it's always the chorus, because in most forms of metal or even rock and pop, like the chorus is the part that you want people to latch onto, which is why we choose the clean vocals to be there, which clean vocals honestly is a pet. I hate people calling it clean vocals, because why don't they call screams dirty or distorted vocals, because to me it's just vocals. But anyways, that's another topic. It's not just you, it's everyone calls it that. But no, usually we just put them on the chorus, and as far as like the lyrics, what usually happens is Tim writes all the lyrics for a song, and when we're starting to work on the melody and chorus like ideas, me and Tim will get together, and a lot of times we'll change the words around or make, like change a word here and there, and we work on the melodies all together, so it's kind of just like collaboration with lyrics that he already had.
Cool. And then, do you still feel pressure when you play and sing songs from Thrill, Words Collapse, and Shadows Are Security, since those records were written and recorded before you joined the band?
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't scare me or anything, but it's just like, of course, you want it to sound as close to those records as possible, like for my voice, but at the same time, like, I didn't sing those parts, so it's not going to sound exactly like it, but I try my best, so, but I can't change the way my voice sounds, so, but I think over the years I've gotten a little better at, like, kind of molding the way I sing to the way those songs kind of work, and kind of just putting my own twist on it, but it doesn't sound exactly the same.
If As I Lay Dying were to do a fall U.S. headlining tour, who would you like to personally handpick to open up for you guys?
You mean like this fall?
Yeah.
Probably All That Remains and Unearth and a opening band that we haven't found out yet. because that actually is a real tour that's happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not announced. It'll be announced tomorrow probably because we had to wait till this tour was done. But just guys, don't post this for the next 2 days.
Oh, we won't.
What was it like working with Adam D for the second time on your new album? And was it similar to the recording of your last album, or did he bring new ideas to the table?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been the same. The way we wrote the record changed a little. Like this time, it was more of like, it wasn't as much of us, let's all go into a room and just write riffs together and see what comes out. It was like a little more planned out. Like we would all, on our own, record demo ideas with Pro Tools and like at our own houses, and then people would, put drums and everything on it, and then bring it to practice and be like, okay, here's the full song I have, or here's like 60% of a song done, and we would pick which ones were already going in the right direction the most and work on those then. So it was kind of like 2 phases of picking the songs. So what happened is Adam got there he came out for a week during the writing and kind of offered some ideas, and what I always tell people is we probably accept and use probably one out of every 4 things Adam would suggest. I mean, his job is to suggest anything that comes to his mind, so a lot of times it wouldn't be stuff we were necessarily interested in, but 1 out of 4 times we'd be like, oh, that is a better idea for that kick drum rhythm, or that's a better idea for that vocal part. But overall, I mean, we loved working with him on Ocean Between Us. He plays every instrument. He sings, plays guitar, plays bass, plays drums, and screams too. So I mean, basically anything we could do, he knows how to do and probably can do better. Maybe, I don't know, but he definitely is very talented at all those things, so we respect what his ideas are for all those things, and yeah, it's pretty much that. I think this time, like, the way we record our records now is we'll go do the drums in like a legitimate, like, expensive studio for 2 or 3 days, 4 days, and then we do all the guitars and vocals at Tim's studio. And that the first time Tim's studio on the Ocean Between Us, it wasn't necessarily, it took probably a week to get in the working order we needed to do everything quickly and how we wanted to. And this time, like, Tim's been running the studio for 3 extra years since then, so he had it more accustomed to recording bands then, so it was a lot easier to just go in and get going right away and save time, and just everything was streamlined, and it was just basically equally as fun as it was recording with Adam the first time, just a little less technical problems. It's cool.
That's cool.
That's a really long answer, I'm sorry.
No worries. And then we have some fan questions.
Okay.
So Joshua wants to know, how do you think the metal scene has changed in the last 5 years? And what elements do you think are currently cliche and oversaturated? And also, where do you see metal going in the next 5 years?
Okay, so part A was how I think has it changed?
Yeah.
I think, about 5 years ago, that was 2005, so that was probably the height of that, like, metalcore movement of most of those bands, and I think that, back then, there was a lot of popular metalcore, like all those, like Shadows Fall, Kill Switch, like It Dies Today, a bunch of bands, and, it's almost like in the last 5 years that those bands have been put through kind of like they've been stripped down, like it's almost like an obstacle course, and the bands that made it through are the ones that adapted and kind of made something unique about their band, like All That Remains or Kill Switch, or us, I guess. Like we're happy to be where we are still, and I think it's probably because we like consciously wanted to set ourselves apart enough so that people would have a reason to hear us. Because if we would have sounded like just like a million other bands, then they already have that. So I mean, but yeah, so I think it's kind of like the bands have definitely been thinned out to the because there's certain new trends that come. Okay, what's part B of the question?
What elements do you think are currently cliche and oversaturated?
Well, I mean, it's almost, I'm trying to think, there's ways that bands can do, the clean singing, parts without making them like there's a lot of bands who overuse like studio tricks like auto-tune and stuff like that. And like, not to say that, like, I'm pretty sure that any band that I've listed right now uses some sort of pitch correction on vocals, because I mean it's happened since the 90s, since like Nirvana. Like it's just something, it should be used as a